Hello and welcome to the Expanding Business Engagement Initiative web meeting. This is the third in a series of web meetings for EBE grantees. We're glad that you could join us today. We will give a brief introduction to the web meeting room in a minute, but for the official welcome, I'd like to turn things over to the DOL team. Gina Wells, Megan Lizick, and Jonathan Payne are at the Department of Labor in Washington, D.C. for the official welcome. Jonathan?
Great, thanks, Vince. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jonathan. On behalf of ETA, I'd like to welcome everybody to today's webinar on expanding business engagement. Along with Megan and myself, we have several other colleagues from ETA joining us to hear about all the progress everybody's been making on this grant. Before we get into the details that SPR and their team will be talking about, I just want to kick things off with a grants management point of view. At this point in October, the grants are about 3 months old. By the time we'll be getting to the December Institute, we'll be about 5 months into the grant lifetime. With that in mind, with this extra 2 months that we have, we really wanted to take the opportunity to meet on this web meeting to present to you some new materials and some new frameworks, which I'll let Ahmad talk about in a few minutes, but to really use this extra time to proactively advance your business engagement strategies. So, like I said, we have a new framework for expanding business engagement that we think will be a great tool for you to use in your own way to sort of further along your thoughts as you develop your strategies. We also have in November a second web meeting, which will sort of regroup on how far we've come and sort of take us to the finish line, which is, or the Institute, not exactly the finish line, but the Institute in December. And also, Megan and myself, as your FPOs, will be contacting you, each of you individually, just to sort of do a more detailed catch-up and to answer any personalized questions that you might have at this time. So, in kicking it off, we're going to start with the framework, which I'll hand back over to Vince and his team and Ahmad. So, go ahead, guys.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. I'd like to briefly introduce or reintroduce the SPR team. SPR is the technical assistance provider on this initiative, and you'll hear the audible members of the team today are myself, just keeping the room sort of running, and then you'll hear from Kristen Wolf about both the framework and also some about the kind of review of the plans that we had been able to make that you all had turned in. You'll also, I'd also like to introduce you to the project manager who just joined the team here at SPR, Ahmad Manzoor, who's just joined us. He served as the regional director of the Bay Area Career Pathway Alliance, a 17-college industry partnership. He was also the director of economic and workforce development at the Peralta Community College, so we're really glad that he was able to join us. He's led a number of important projects, including done some leadership and strategic facilitation work with the Harvard Advanced Leadership Initiative, and is an economic opportunity fellow at the Aspen Institute. So we're really glad that Ahmad was able to join us and is now the new project manager. Ahmad, are you on? Can you say a few words?
I am on. Thank you, Vince. Well, hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all, and I guess I can say as much as conference lines and web environments would allow anyway. But I did have the opportunity to look over your applications and your implementation plan, so I pretty much feel like I have an idea of who you are and what you're doing in your communities. And I'm looking forward to working with you today and also in the future. Nonetheless, I am really pleased about joining this team and working on this project, mainly for several reasons. First, I guess we could say that, as the economy shifts and recover and change, there's not a better time to rethink our business engagement strategies for our state and local communities. And thus, I'm just looking forward to working with you and being a thought partner and helping out any way possible. Secondly, I got to say that both personally and professionally, I can't imagine a better project to bring forth my combined experience from the private, public, and nonprofit sector. Just looking and just being part of this EBE initiative, it just feels like it's a good way to use my time, and it's a great opportunity to use my skill set. So I'm really excited about it. And last, I'm just simply excited and fortunate to have the opportunity to work with a highly competent professional team on both the DOL and the Social Policy Research Associate side. So I just want to say thank you to Jonathan and Megan, Gina and Sarah of DOL, and then our awesome team here with SPRA, Kristen, Sam, and Vince, and the person who I like to call our superhero, Trace, because he does everything. He's kind of like the MacGyver of workforce and EBE. So thank you, Trace. So I'm sure that we'll have a chance to catch up. And I really look forward to meeting you all in person, where we could put names to faces. And so I'm going to step back for a brief moment and hand it back over to Vince, where he'll have the opportunity to share with you some of the technical instructions for this webinar.
Great, thanks, Ahmad. So just for those of you, many of you have been through these before, but I just want to give you a quick review of the room that we're in case we do experience technical challenges with our meeting room, either on the web or on the phone. Check your email. We'll send out links. If you notice that your internet connection slows down or goes away, simply reconnecting to this room should get you right back in, so that should not be a problem. You probably already know how to use chat, but I wanted to review the couple of special features that we are using today. We have a chat on the left, which is simply a box where you can enter information and hit the return key, and it will be shared with everyone else on the call. That's the chat on the left-hand side that we would like you to use right now to identify who you are, who you're with, the state that you're from, and who you're with. In your rooms, if there's multiple people connecting from a single location. So if you haven't done that already, please go ahead and do that now. You will also notice that at the bottom of the screen, below the slides, there's another chat box. That's the chat box we will use throughout the web meeting today for you to participate in the discussion or respond to questions that we will pose to you. So that's how we would like for you to distinguish those two chats. If you have questions of the presenters, use the chat on the left. For comments or responses to questions that we pose, please use the chat on the bottom. Hope that makes sense. And I see people are already using it, so that's great. We will also occasionally use polls, so you will see that we will ask you to respond to polls. So we will bring those up on the screen, and you'll just click on the response that most fits your specific situation, and that's how you'll participate. So that's all I have to say about the technical aspects. Feel free, if you have any kind of technical questions or problems, use the chat as well. And I'm going to turn it back to Ahmad now for a review of today's agenda.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. It's me again, Ahmad. So let's briefly go over the agenda for today. As you have up on your screen there, 5 action items that we will engage in this webinar today. First, we're going to revisit the EBE timeline for this initiative. If you remember, we initially had the Institute set up for October, but we rescheduled, and it's now going to be in early December. And, you know, we actually think that this has given us the opportunity to think more deeply about the experience to deliver in our Institute. So that extra time really helped us. Secondly, we're going to also review what we're calling headlines from the implementation plans that were submitted to DOL in late August. Headlines are essentially standout themes that are present in your plan. So we had an opportunity to kind of look over your plans and synthesize some of those key headlines or key elements that came up, and we put it into what we call headlines as themes. And we won't have the opportunity to cover them all today, but we'll focus on a few of them and provide you with a summary in the form of a companion guide after the call, and really next week. And thirdly, we want to introduce you to the framework. And this is something which we started on our last call, and it's essentially our process cycle that allows for the collaborative engagement of your partners in this process. Then also we'll engage in a series of activities today, some of which will be, well, I guess a combination of chat, polls, and open-ended and fill-in blank questions. So we've really designed this to be highly active and interactive. It'll be somewhat fast-paced, but it's really set up to be a great learning experience in peer exchange. And so I guess one more thing, and I guess the next is our next steps. We'll briefly discuss the next steps, how we will proceed from here on. And one thing I would like to say that in most of our webinars moving forward, you can expect some common activities that will show up in some of our subsequent web meetings. We'll do a little crowdsourcing of ideas and methods and approaches. We'll spotlight some of the grantees from the teams and see what they're doing. So we'll spotlight them on our calls. And finally, we'll continue to work on the framework and the content of the framework. So you can expect to see these activities as we move forward on November 8th in November. So as you see, we have a lot to cover, and so we'll proceed quickly. I want to remind everyone to use the question box on the left-hand side for any questions that you may have. So let's quickly review the timeline. So this first slide here, as you see, it's an arrow pointing to an impact, and I like to see this as kind of a 30,000 foot view of where we're going on this project, with the arrow leading towards the impact. It's a very simple timeline, but it's driven towards this particular impact that we're trying to get to. So we just simply wanted to provide you with a visual aid to remind all of us that what we're working towards in this initiative. And we can use this to ask ourselves, is what I'm doing right now getting me closer to my goal? And so if we can kind of keep that question front and center, this line will help us. Also, next slide here, you'll see that we have a timeline, more of a timeline table. Just want to quickly go over this. So as you can see, we have an early call in November that will focus on preparing for the December Institute. And then in a few short weeks, the Institute will occur where we will all meet in person. So between here and now, you will likely be working on building your teams, meeting with them, and further developing your EBE goals and strategies. And also during the November call, we'll introduce the Institute's, we'll prep for the Institute activities. It will be in December. And then at the Institute itself, we'll focus in on team planning, peer learning, SME participation, and capacity building. So, as we noted on our last call, we really want to emphasize that the preparation work is essential so that you as grantees can prepare ahead of time and really get as much as you can out of these experiences. So I guess that's enough for me right now. I'm going to turn this over to Kristen, who will take you through, she'll introduce you to the headlines and introduce you to the emerging framework and engage with you in a series of activities. So enjoy, and here you are, Kristen.
Thanks so much, Ahmed.
Sure.
Well, first of all, we'd just like to thank everyone for submitting such thoughtful plans. The enthusiasm and excitement about the EBE initiative was pretty evident in them, and we appreciate your efforts to work out kind of meaningful goals and strategies and place them into your state's unique contexts. We also really valued the honesty of many of the plans. There were those that raised questions about whether their approach served a public interest or indicated that their teams were brand new, not yet fully assembled, so goals would have to be revisited as they grew. As you know, our aim is to support your success. So when you share information about what's hard, we can target those things and make them easier. So I just wanted to kind of affirm that and thank people for it. So let's quickly review some of the headlines that Ahmad referred to a bit earlier. First, there was clear interest expressed in nearly all the plans in better understanding the value of your agencies or organizations, or the value of the specific services you provide to business. It was such a prevalent theme that we've kind of nicknamed it the value question and have been talking about it that way. That's all I'll say on that front for now, because we'll plan to return to it later in our meeting and do some inquiry and some discussion with all of you. And for the next headline, the majority of plans indicated a need for further goal setting, either because teams were still being assembled and goals needed to be revisited in that context, or because teams were working on aligning EBE efforts with broader state goals, but weren't yet clear about the specific roles that EBE might play. For example, a number of plans provided kind of business-focused aims for their state as a whole, some linked to a governor's initiative, others linked to departmental initiatives, or to regional initiatives even. Things like streamlining services or improving performance or investing more effectively. But many of these plans were not quite yet able to describe the specific contribution that EBE would make toward those bigger aims. So we anticipate that there's probably more work to do on that front. Another theme, and I suspect this will not be a surprise to any of you, had to do with collaboration and coordination. Nearly all of the plans named this as a challenge, with some focusing on internal partners and some on external stakeholders. But few plans included specific strategies or approaches that grantees intended to use to support collaboration. And these strategies matter. Some teams might choose, for example, to engage a raft of partners in a small but important change, and that may lay the groundwork for more significant transformation. But other teams may opt to engage a smaller number of partners in sort of a deeper level of work. You know, there's no single best approach here, but the approaches imply different kinds of collaboration strategies, and most grantees are just beginning to work on these. The plans also raised the capacity building question. There were several categories in which this came up. Staff training and development is one. Technology was also significantly represented. Marketing and outreach, service and program design. I'm going to stop there for now because we'll return to a couple of those later in our web meeting. And finally, the plans expressed a keen interest in working on meaningful measures, measures that really matter. Most teams indicated that existing measures, while perfectly adequate at a program level, don't capture the true picture of performance, and in particular, the performance of business-focused programs and services. So it seems like everybody's looking for new approaches here. Again, we'll provide you with a brief summary of these headlines in the form of a companion guide that we'll send out next week. And just a reminder, if you have questions, go ahead and submit them in the chat box, and we'll be watching for them and then aggregating them, and we'll come back to them at the end of the webinar. Okay, now we'll spend a couple minutes talking about the project's emerging framework. You'll remember that we first mentioned the idea of a project framework during our call last month. So we'll talk you through it briefly and then introduce each of the 4 elements. Okay, so first, what do we mean when we say framework? What is this thing we're talking about? When we approach complex problems like this one that involve a lot of different people and agencies from across vast geographies, we find that it's useful to create kind of a visual map of our shared work. That's a framework. It functions as a guide to a set of shared assumptions or values, practices, elements. It provides a common language so that everybody pursuing their individual projects can find what's common in their work and talk about it and share. unlike many grant programs that you may be used to, the EB initiative doesn't seek to implement a particular model or set of services, but as you know, all of you are implementing different kinds of initiatives. You're a pretty diverse lot with a wide range of goals and strategies, and that's why the framework that we proposed for this initiative is a process-centered one. It describes a process cycle, looks a little bit like a clock. And the thought is that by emphasizing the most critical shared steps that you're all likely to take, it can accommodate the varied aims and approaches that are present in all of your projects. Okay, so what are we doing with this framework? Well, first and foremost, we hope that it's useful to you as an organizing tool, a communications device, as a way to weigh options and choices when you have to make decisions about what actions you might take to advance a particular goal in a number of ways. And as technical assistance providers, we hope to use this framework as a way to organize and share content. That might be lessons, sort of organize the technical assistance experiences that we provide all through the life of the initiative. We also hope that the framework will be useful to the mentee states with whom you collaborate during the second year of the project. And as practitioners, we often use these maps to make what can feel a little bit murky somewhat clearer. And I'll admit to finding myself suddenly in kind of a rabbit hole from time to time where you're really working on something in depth and it's hard to kind of resurface and talk to someone who's not been involved in the project. And frameworks like this can be a good tool for both getting back on track and then sharing the content of your work with new partners who may not have been involved at the early stages. So let's take a minute and walk through each of the elements one by one. The first element, understand, is about finding the sort of sweet spot between your agency or team's capacity and the opportunities in your target market or community. As your capacity and relationships evolve, so too will your understanding of what's possible to do through collaboration. You can imagine how the idea of understanding might operate at different levels. For grantees just launching business service initiatives for the first time, or even redesigning them, an assessment of internal strengths together with maybe some survey data about business needs might be enough to get you started. It'll ground you in an understanding of what the opportunities are. But later, as relationships are established and partnerships formed, might be your agency helping firms understand the nature of community problems, maybe youth unemployment or economic security for seniors, regional economic development, these kinds of issues, so that these firms might find a way to collaborate on a solution. The second element, which we're calling engage, is about the many and varying roles that partners can play and the different ways they might be engaged in solving important community problems. While engagement can start out focused narrowly, such as defining training needs, for example, it can quickly become much more. For example, we were working with a state recently, and one of the issues that this public-private partnership landed on was legislation that would enable the self-employment assistance program in that state. This isn't the kind of thing that might go at the top of your list of services that firms might value, I don't think. But since the conversation was about building economic strength in a collaborative way, it emerged as something businesses, public sector representatives, and nonprofit organizations could all work together on. The third element is the most self-explanatory. It's fundamentally about delivering great services and doing great work. So I'll just leave that there. And again, you'll receive this inside of the companion guide that we'll send out in about a week. It is still emerging, so you might notice a couple of changes. And the fourth element is we've identified it as measure. So before you all groan at this particular name, because we know from reading your plans that you're all struggling with measures, please read on. This element is, yes, about program performance and service quality and efficiency. But the opportunity, as many of you talked about in your plans, is in finding ways to document and communicate the value of what you do more broadly, doing that more clearly, and doing it in a compelling way that invites the participation of partners. And this is something that we can all work on together. So thanks for your patience. We're eager now to stop talking and to invite you all into this convening in a real way. So we're going to shift now and explore some of the headlines that we said we'd return to in the context of the framework. Let's work with the most universal concern reflected in the implementation plans, the need to determine the value of our roles, organizations, and services to business. Of all the things we do, what does business find the most value in? This question was asked and named in, I think, 11 out of the 13 plans. So we trust that it's something that you're all thinking very hard about. So let's start off with a poll that might help us see where we are in terms of answering that question. Can we move in the poll? There we go. Okay. The question is, which of the following best describes your team's progress in understanding the value of your role and services to business? Take a look for a minute at the potential responses. You might be conducting research or looking to change what you do, maybe thinking about growing your market or realizing the promise of all of this work, working alongside businesses as a trusted partner. So go ahead and indicate which describes your situation. I see the responses coming in. I should also tell you now that each statement represents an actual position reflected in the implementation plans, even if not your particular plan. So there should be at least one response in each category unless you're progressing so quickly that the first two categories are yesterday's news. So for those of you who are trusted partners, don't be shy. And similarly, if you're just starting out, you'll have the benefit of the wisdom of your peers. So we'll give you a couple more minutes to go ahead and respond. Still changing. So it looks like there's quite a bit of representation in the statement. We have employers who seem to like our services, but our market is small. We'd like to grow it and get a better idea of the services that are valued by the market rather than by the small number of firms we work with now. So it looks like there are quite a few grantees there and also quite a few in the trusted partner category. So for you, you can count on the fact that we'll be engaging you in sharing what's worked, and we'll start doing that today. So we'll just give it another second. Okay, it looks like we're gonna stop there. So it looks like most of you are in the throes of figuring out what the new set of services is going to look like and how to grow your markets. Okay, so now we'll go on. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. Okay. Now we'll do a quick chat. There we go. We'll do a quick chat. As we've talked about, nearly all of you are working to better understand the value of your services to business. And in your plan, some of you cited research or surveys, summits or roundtables as methods you were using to explore the value question. So now we'd like to invite you to share these methods with each other through the chat window at the bottom of your screen. And you can see Vince has typed here chat 1 methods and approaches. So right in that window at the very bottom. It's a quick chat exercise. So we're going to give you 2 minutes to respond to the question on your screen with as many responses as you can during that time. And if you didn't sign in with your state's name or abbreviation, please try and include it in your response. I'll just do an example here. Okay. So just go ahead and use that window to submit your responses. Again, the question is, what are all of the methods, processes, approaches, or activities you are using to better understand the value or potential value of business services in your state? Go ahead and respond now, and we'll give you a couple minutes. Okay, so it looks like, wow, they're coming in so fast and furiously I can barely keep up. But it looks like there's quite a lot of different kinds of engagements, meetings, summits, annual business summit, employer committee meetings. Looks like there's a lot of survey work, talent advisory council, in-depth data analysis by key sectors, monthly luncheons with 5 to 7 employers, presentations to HR groups, a career pathways initiative in Oklahoma. These are fantastic. I'm going to give you another minute or two. These are terrific. In-person employer visits, we meet face-to-face. Wow, these are super. It looks like there's a whole range of different ways that you're all convening. So I think this will be quite useful to each other. Again, what we plan to do with this information, as Ahmad noted earlier, this is our first sort of crowdsourcing activity, and we'll have a couple of more of these in this session, and we'll also have them in subsequent webinars. And the idea here is to really sort of pull out some of the ideas and methods and approaches that you're all using, and then we can kind of curate and organize them so that we can share them with everyone. You know, as you might imagine, it's a little bit hard. I'm even having a hard time kind of watching the flurry of different options go across the screen. And so if we kind of curate and organize it a little bit, we hope that you'll be able to see sort of a range of different kinds of convening and data collection and, you know, engagement activities, all aimed at better understanding what the markets look like in different states, and that will be useful to you as you proceed. These are great. I see some of you, so some of you have started including other partners like economic development and so forth. If anyone wants to specifically enter that kind of information as well, who are you convening with? Are you sort of co-convening activities? I think I saw a university one fly by too. These are great. Oh, so progress reports too, that's another one. I noticed a couple of people had annual reports, and some of the descriptions of reports sound more like report cards or dashboards, and some of them sound more like more comprehensive labor market reports. So it sounds like there's a big choice and a number of options in terms of the products that you're all developing too. Huh. Organizing employers and tactical teams, sector academies. Here's another university mention, quarterly area partnership organizations, for example, Southern Oklahoma Area Partnership. These are super. Well, thank you. That was fantastic. Okay. Oh, wow. So, oh, good, thank you. Whoever enlarged the window, I think that might have been my colleague Vince. Thanks so much. Now we can see it slightly better. So this is really a rich collection of ideas. This is exactly what we'd hoped for. So again, we'll organize this and sort of curate a little bit, and then we hope that by including it in the companion guide, it will provide you with a range of choices and options for doing this kind of inquiry, this sort of investigation of the question, of the value question, of, you know, what is it that matters most to business and how do we engage with business to find that out. Okay, this is great. I'll just give it another, okay, it looks like everybody's nearly done. Yep, that was fantastic. Okay, great, thank you. I was hoping that it would work that well, but that was terrific, so thank you. Oh, and I see some people are using the side chat as well, so we'll go ahead and put those together. But wow, this is fantastic. Thanks so much. Okay, so now we're going to go to another activity, and this one. 9 plans, as it happens, emphasize the importance of staff training and development as a strategy for improving business engagement services. So quite a number of them. So we're going to explore that together with technology and the topic of partnerships, which we've kind of categorized under engaged for now. So let's go on, and we're going to do another quick poll. There we go. Okay, the question is, under the EBE initiative, what is your primary approach to staff development and training? You might be using an existing curricula or developing a new one or not using one at all. There's no right approach here. So you just saw the questions in kind of larger type on the screen, and now Vince has moved in the poll once again. Moved it in and then moved it out. It'll return shortly. There we go. Okay, so those answers are on this poll, and again, the question is, under the EBE initiative, what is your primary approach to staff development and training? And then go ahead. Okay. I'm laughing at the curriculum we're winging it answer. It looks like a number of you are in that category. There's no wrong answer here. So you know, no wrong answer, no right answer. So this is really interesting. This is great. A number of you, though, are using curriculum, it looks like. A few of you are using curriculum that already exists, maybe 2. So of the 2 of you who are using curriculum borrowed from another state or from DOL or from a professional association, could you use the chat window below? And I will just, I'm going to put a subject here in the chat window. There we go. If you could just go ahead and use the chat window below to indicate what curriculum you're using or what group the curriculum is associated with. If you it looks, oh, now one of you dropped out. Wait a second. A minute ago, 2 of you were using a borrowed curriculum, and now only 1 is. So could that one team please use the chat window below to name the curriculum or name the organization with which the curriculum is affiliated? That would be fantastic. And for the other one who dropped out, I'm hoping it was just a clarification on your part rather than a desire to avoid answering my question. So, but okay, so it looks like you're developing one now. So this is great. So it looks like 7 of you are developing a curriculum now. 5 of you have already developed a curriculum. So this is super. so it looks like there's lots of connecting that we could potentially do here around the idea of a curriculum so that you're all not duplicating work and so that you can share the good ideas that I'm sure you're coming up with. This is fantastic. Okay. Well, great. So it hasn't changed in a second, so I'll give people another second or two just to change their mind before I shift. And thank you, Mike, for responding with the name. Okay. It looks like we're done. So thank you so much, and let's move to the next slide and move that poll out. Okay. So now we'll do something a little bit different. We'll give you a couple minutes to work with your teams to develop responses to the following questions. If you're not in the same office or location as the other members of your team, you might text or email, but otherwise just do your best to respond individually. So the questions. The first one is, in your project, what is the most unique aspect of staff development or training in service of improved business engagement? For example, you might be offering training to external partners like colleges or chamber staff, or you might be delivering it via mobile technologies, or you might be offering a particularly innovative kind of training. So what's most unique in your approach to training? And then secondly, if your training is successful, what is one thing that you expect to be different about the way you engage business? So again, we're going to give you a little bit of time to think about that and potentially to coordinate via chat or email if you're not in the same location as your other teammates. And then please remember to include your state abbreviation or if it's not part of your name or login. And also the question you're responding to. I think that'll be quite obvious, but you could do A and B. So anyway, we'll just give you a minute to think about that and then go ahead and respond. Again, we're looking for unique aspects of your training and something that you expect to be different if your training is successful. We should have maybe thought to include music at this point. Maybe we'll think about that next time. So I see people typing already, which is great. These responses are making me want to come visit all of you. This is great. Okay, so it looks like some of you are using environment like this one, WebEx training, and you're after a better understanding of needs. Good. Great. We're also interested in things that you may not think of immediately. For instance, we've heard of a couple of boards doing customer service training with Disney and things like that. And so things that may not seem immediately relevant, we're also interested in those kinds of approaches. Just anything that particularly stands out. And I mean, it's a hard question, I guess. I didn't think of it until just this second, but it's kind of a hard question because if it's your approach to training, how do you know what's unique about it, right? So, so hazard a guess. I'll think a little bit differently next time I use that question or a version of it. But these are great. So, let's see. So it looks like some of you are using curriculum that were developed, but you're updating it. And with more diverse delivery methods, which we'll be really interested in. Looks like social media is going to be a part of learning for some teams, which is fantastic. That's something we'll definitely want to share. That was another theme that was, we'll cover that a little bit when we get to the technology section, but there was a strong interest in social technologies for a variety of things represented in the plans. Oh, and it looks like there's a significant effort to train staff from different partner programs on each other's programs. And that, as we all know, that's an ongoing and really important piece of work to do. Some of these will definitely have to have more information and explanation. Consultative benefits-based sales for internal and external partners. Wow. Looks like Florida is engaging its 24 regional workforce boards with the specific mission of raising the bar in business services. Wow. This is fantastic. And Montana is struggling with staff who are located in very different places across a very large state, and I suspect Montana is not alone there. So if any of you are using, distance technologies or, approaches that can help connect isolated staff, we'd sure like to hear about that. I think Montana is certainly not alone in that problem. Even for states that tend to be more urban, it's not all that different sometimes. So looking at ways that we reach out and support development in different ways is, I think, important to all of us. So this is really interesting. It looks like quite a mix. In some cases, it looks like there's a more a more centralized approach where there's a curriculum and an effort to use a single curriculum. And in other areas, it looks like a more distributed approach, engaging lots of different people in a common set of activities. And then looks like there's a whole lot of stuff in between. So this is fantastic. So really diverse set of approaches, lots of common interest in technologies that allow us to reach staff without being face-to-face. And it also looks like this is really interesting and maybe worth a conversation when we're together in person, but this issue of what exactly is training. It looks like training and development for many of you are being worked into existing activities. So that'll be another really interesting thing to follow up on. Wow, thanks so much for sharing. This is fantastic. And it looks like the range of outcomes is quite different too. Some of the outcomes are focused on intelligence, on sort of better understanding, and other outcomes are focused on kind of culture almost, preparing people to be better able to work productively with business. So this is great. Okay, we'll just give it, looks like there's still a little typing, so we'll just give it like another few seconds. Okay. We're gonna shift because someone just noted in our meetings, marketing has been a huge topic of discussion for training and presentation. So I suspect that will be true for almost everyone, and that was something, as I noted before, that came out in the headlines. We're not going to address the marketing topic specifically today, but it's certainly on our list of priorities for talking about at the Institute. So we're going to shift a little bit now. Thank you so much, everyone. That was terrific. There's really rich information here. But we're going to shift now a little bit to specifically to technology, which was, again, another key theme running through the implementation plans. So here we'll do another poll. On the screen, you'll see a list of technologies mentioned in your plans. So go ahead and indicate the top 3 areas in which your team has significant technology needs or challenges. Again, this time we're looking for your top 3, and the poll will be coming in shortly. There it is. I love dynamic polls. They're great. I love sort of I can't hear you all, of course, so I just love the information coming in real time and shifting around. It's so great. Okay. So it looks like managing and tracking employer engagement is a significant area that people are looking for help in terms of technologies and information systems. Managing and tracking performance comes in a pretty close second. But really, they're across the board. So this is interesting. These are very, very distributed. There's not one response that is getting all the answers here. Wow. Well, this explains a lot about why technology, sort of the set of technology challenges and needs was so prevalent in all of your plans. It looks like the needs are quite varied. They're not just they're not concentrated in one particular area. And there's, I think I mentioned this before, but so it looks like social technologies is also quite a significant area of need and interest, and we saw that reflected in the plans as well. So that's an area that we hope to explore at the Institute as well. Wow, this is fantastic. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. So now we will shift. Oops, okay. Okay, so now we'll shift to another chat. And in this question, remember the last question we just asked you about needs and challenges, but many of you also indicated in your plans that you were planning to purchase or develop or launch new technologies that supported employer engagement as a part of the EB initiative. So in this case, let's go ahead and use the chat window below, and again, go ahead and include your state if it's not part of your login. And let's go ahead and answer that question. We're very interested in knowing what specific technology-based tools or systems you're planning to purchase, develop, support, or launch in the next 12 months. Okay, so it looks like so this is interesting, and I'm really, thank you, New Jersey. A couple of you mentioned in the plans Salesforce.com in particular, so we suspected that that would come up, and that's in part what prompted us to ask this question. So thank you for contributing that. It looks like Oklahoma is launching, or maybe has launched, OK Job Match. So that would fall into the job matching category. So here we are again, CRM systems again. Oh, wow, a mobile app, Virtual One Stop and a mobile app. Okay. more interest in CRM. We suspected this would be the case. As I noted, a couple of plans specifically mentioned CRM systems and a couple Salesforce.com, but many of you described that need. So I'm really glad to see these responses. This looks like another area where it would be tremendously useful to connect you all, and those who have experience with some of these systems could share with those who are considering a purchase or a launch. And then similarly, it looks like some of you are doing intelligence gathering and market research now. So, you know, sharing the burden of that kind of work might also be useful to people. This is great. So more Salesforce interest. Okay, so this is fantastic. So for those of you who are already using Salesforce, I'm sure you'll be called upon during the Institute to share with all of the teams that are looking at purchasing or implementing or even renewing licenses. So here's another one on job matching. So there are at least a couple of teams looking at expanding or enhancing job matching systems. Ohio in partnership with Monster. This is great. This is exactly what we'd hoped for. So it gives us a lot of information to follow up on in subsequent web meetings and also in the Institute so that we can make sure that people who are doing similar work can be connected in that work so that everyone can learn from each other. This is great. Thank you so much. Looks like we still have a few people typing. Okay, it looks like there might be another response or two. There we go. Personality assessments and skills assessments. So these are tools for matching, but not the job matching system itself. Okay, well, this is super. Really rich information. Here's another one, social media, executive pulse. It also looks like, I noticed this above too, but Kay from Montana, you raise it again, the issue of using webinars for alternative purposes. So many of you have been using webinars either internally or in cases like the call we're doing now, but it looks like there's interest in expanding webinars as a vehicle for actually delivering services. So that's really interesting and potentially for connecting with employers. If anyone is using video, whether it's sort of formal, I don't know, some of you may have partners who happen to be Cisco and have access to Cisco telepresence, who knows. But even things like Skype, if anyone's implementing any sort of video, go ahead and say so. There we go. Florida, yes. So this is super. Well, thank you all. That was an unbelievably rich collection of information. So we're really thrilled. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears a little bit and go to the last set of headline issues, again, under engagement. And this one we're calling partnerships. And I'm sure that every team is working hard to cultivate partnerships, the core of how we get our work done. So it's time to share the kind of wisdom we all need most, folks. So here's the question. In your view, what is the magic bullet for bringing effective business partnerships about? Okay, the confession is, in case you've not gotten there, we know there really isn't a magic bullet, but we still would like to know what you think really works. So again, go ahead and use the chat box below. And Dave, of food, thank you. We have also found that to be quite useful. Trust. Okay, so these are great. This is exactly what we're looking for. You know, in your experience, I mean, even though this particular initiative is new and some of you may be new to business services or some initiatives may be newer than others, really all of us have had some experience in trying to build partnerships. with the private sector, with industries, with business. So go ahead and share what you know about this difficult activity. Open communication, great. Difficult and also fun activity. We all know that we wouldn't be doing it if it weren't great work to do. Ohio, lightning fast response time. That sounds magic bulletish. This is great. It's hard work, you know, and sometimes it is these things, you know, food, trust. These things they're sort of ethereal on the one hand, and they make all the difference on the other. You know, as you know, developing relationships with any partners, but in particular with business, you know, it's not like following a recipe. You really have to find a formula and a mechanism that works for you. So the more we share this kind of wisdom, the more we all benefit from it. This is, Oklahoma, listening, really listening, and then committing to do what it takes to solve the problems. That's, thank you, Oklahoma. This is great. Targeting. Communication followed by action and support. Joe, it looks like a lot of your colleagues have said something very similar. So it looks like you're all in alignment there. Let's see. This is great. Respect for time, making meeting valuable and focusing more on specific needs of each community. This collection of information is exactly what we hoped for. It's wisdom. It's not just sort of sort of quick response subject matter. Really, it's not sort of a list of topics. It's real wisdom. So thank you so much for sharing it. We weren't sure this would come across because it is it's a medium that encourages brevity, but this is a terrific collection of wisdom. Finding a niche. So this is interesting. So some of you focus more on figuring out your strengths and going with that, and others focused more on finding the place in the market where you can add value, and then lots of folks in the middle. So this is terrific. Maintaining visibility. So here's the marketing / outreach and media issue. Maryland, providing valuable information. This is so great. Language, that's another issue. Jerry from Florida raises that. I think another person did up earlier in the list. Co-hosting. This is a great collection. Okay. Well, we're definitely proven correct here in that there is no magic bullet, but it looks like there is a whole collection here. So these are fantastic ideas, again, that reflect a real depth and a real sense of wisdom. So this is great. I hope that we'll all benefit from sharing this. I see there's still a couple people typing, so we'll just go ahead and leave it up for a minute. There's a lot of emphasis. Jerry from Florida raises the add value question. That came up several times earlier. I didn't note it in particular, but the issue of really being clear about adding value in all transactions, so or in all interactions. So wow, well thank you. That was super. And now we're at our last partnership question. This one might be a little bit harder. You know, we often hear stories from business support staff that go something like this. We've been trying to engage chamber members for years around services or planning or strategy, and then we convened a summit on skills gaps, and now we can't keep them away. Or another story we hear, if I had known that key business leaders value my access to community decision makers, I would have traded on that a lot earlier. So these are different ways that workforce agencies and organizations can offer value that surprised the leaders of these agencies or organizations. And that's the kind of thing we're looking for here. Things that you've done that, much to your surprise, the business community really valued. So it's a little bit harder. We'll give you a minute to respond. And again, please indicate your state if your login does not. We thought this would be hard, but I see some of you are diving right in. People are typing now. Custom assessments. This will also be great kind of fodder for conversation. You know, well, why is this surprising? Because the root of this question, what's behind it, is value, right? Because if employers were surprised, if you were surprised by what actually engaged them, it illustrates that there's some value behind what you did. And so that's the intent of this question, is to sort of unpack that a little bit. So there's Florida, fee-for-service assessments, Making it easier to submit job postings turned out to be appreciated in Ohio. Employer councils. More custom assessment. Let's see. Just the ability to learn about business needs, partnerships, and learning about people's needs. Training on MinnesotaWorks.net. Oh, that's interesting. Oklahoma, modernizing our facility. That's one that has not come up before. Incumbent worker training money. Developing consistent and easy-to-use protocols. Job fairs in Minnesota. Industry-specific recruiters, sharing information. This is great. On-site reemployment services. So this is layoff. It looks like layoff aversion here that Mike raises. Looks like a couple people are still typing. This is a great list. I didn't expect that we'd get quite this many. Looks like the full array of talent needs, not just entry or low level. So being able to connect people to all kinds of levels turned out to be of importance in Florida. Pre-employment skills testing in Ohio. Veterans recruitment events in Minnesota. These are great. Okay. Looks like a couple people are still typing. This is great. Thank you so much. Florida, working with C-suite individuals. Entrepreneurial training, Region 19. That's similar to the story that I told earlier about the state we were working with, in which the idea of a self-employment assistance program became the thing that sort of surfaced as people were talking about what they should be partnering on. On-the-job training. I thought that might come up. This is really useful stuff. more entrepreneurial training. Okay. So there are a couple of you that are continuing to type, and please do. I'm just going to move us along here a little bit. So let me just say thank you again so much. These were amazing responses to the questions we asked. And as I stated earlier, we'll curate the responses and include them as part of the Framework Companion Guide we send out next week. That'll also include summaries of the key headlines that we talked about. And, you know, we're looking to make it like sort of a living document so that we always have a way to share back the results of the crowdsourcing we do during these calls and also in the Institute. So with genuine gratitude, and I'm just having a lot of fun, and just thank you to all of you, I'm turning the floor back over to Ahmad Mansour, the new EBE project manager. So thanks so much, and take away, Ahmad.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. I got to say, I am totally amazed by you, Kristen, and your ability to really integrate some of these online, real-time, great answers into this presentation. So thank you very much. And also thanks to the participants, the grantees. I mean, tons of great material to work from. And one thing that kind of sticks out to me is the term that Kristen used, and that was lots of wisdom. There is lots of wisdom here, and I like to consider wisdom as a form of capital that really integrates into the knowledge creation and co-creation process for creating solutions. So thank you, and I look forward to getting more of that as we proceed on in our next webinar and also in our institutes. So just want to have some final thoughts here, and there is another activity that I would like to throw into the basket here. We would like to ask you just one more question about what you heard during the last 90 minutes. So again, using your chat box, can you let us know what one thing surprised you about what your colleagues shared during this web meeting? Once again, you could use your chat box, and we want to give you about a minute or two to do this. No, I agree. There is a lot of common good between us. Absolutely. I see some affirmation of your practices in your state and regions. And Michelle says the power of collective thought of all of the grantees, and that's absolutely one of the reasons why we use this peer-to-peer process, because we know that there is a lot of knowledge that can be exchanged. So thank you. Great. Okay. So there is just one last activity, and this will not require the chat box. It will just require some of your great thinking. We would like to talk to you with your teams about the following question. We would like you to talk to your teams about the following question. What one thing that you would do between now and the next call because of what you learned today? Once again, what's one thing that you will do between now and our next call because of what you've learned today? And you actually, there's no need to answer now. We're going to actually send you out a Zoomerang with the companion guide next week. And at that time, we'll be asking for your commitment. Great. So I guess we want to see if there are any questions. I know there's a lot of material, and I'm sure there are some questions out there that actually we see questions out there that we would love to get answered from you, from someone either at DOL or the SPRA team. So let's see what we have here.
Here's our first question, Ahmad, and I think somebody from DOL can probably take that.
The question is, are all team members expected to participate on the calls? And I mean, as this is a group collaboration, and we would like as much peer-to-peer interaction as possible. So to the extent possible, we'd love to hear from everybody if possible. We certainly encourage that.
Thanks, Jonathan.
So we're still working. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jonathan. Yeah, here's the next question regarding the Fall Institute.
So as you've heard, we've moved the Institute dates to December 5th through December 7th. We're still getting final approval from the department, so those dates are tentative like before. So at this point, please don't book any non-refundable travel. You can start making hotel reservations as long as they are refundable. And we are going to set November 5th as the final date for which we'll give you the additional information on making your finalized travel plans.
Great, and here's yet another question for DOL.
Hi, this is Megan. I can take this one. So yes, we are. The question is, do we know that Melanie Arthur is working with ETA in the states of Utah and Texas in development of some BSR training modules? And yes, we're very aware. Here at the agency, we are working hard to collaborate with all of our different colleagues around the agency that are working on different and wonderful business engagement projects. And so we have been waiting with bated breath for these modules to be rolled out, and we know that they are in the final stages of development. And once they are finalized, they will be rolled out on our BSR Community of Practice website. We will make all of you aware.
So we definitely, this is Gina, and as to the extent that staff training is part of the strategies you'll be working on over the next couple of years, we really hope that you'll explore these tools along with the other tools that we've already mentioned to you, but that we'll send out again that are on our Expanding Business Engagement Community of Practice. We hope that you'll look at them and consider how you can leverage them, because these dollars have already been invested, and to the extent that they can meet your needs, that would be great.
Fantastic. So I guess we'll go over the next steps before I hand it over back to Megan. So moving forward, we have a next call on November 8th at 11 a.m. and then we'll be commencing in Institute planning. Then we have the Institute December 3rd through the 5th. Then, as we mentioned earlier, we'll be sending out a Zoomerang along with the companion guide, and then there will be some FPO calls. And that is it. So, Megan?
Thanks so much, Ahmad. While we're still on this slide, just wanting to point out that the 11 a.m. time that is listed is Pacific, so you can all adjust accordingly. That would be 2 p.m. Eastern time. So just trying to stay consistent with all of our web meetings for you guys. So thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to add a couple of closing comments and then give you guys a few other next steps and reminders. So first of all, I just wanted to reiterate how excited we are about the framework tool that we went through in just a brief introduction with you guys today. We think that this tool can be used iteratively at many levels, both for further development of broad strategies as well as for, as you think about specific goals. You can use it to examine your organizations from an internal perspective. You can think about how the elements can be applied externally. And then also you might want to be thinking about how each element has both a qualitative and a quantitative side. So I know that all of you are coming to this initiative from different places. There are some common challenges like we've seen during today's call. But what we've tried to do here is, based on the feedback that we got from the implementation plans, design something that can be general enough that all of you can take it and run with it however you think that it will best help you. So we're really excited about the framework tool, and like you saw today with Kristen leading you through kind of some different thought that pertained mainly to the first two elements of understand and engage. In our upcoming meetings, we're going to be having additional focus on the other two elements, deliver and measure. So you heard a little bit about all four elements today. You saw a slightly more in-depth way to think about two of them. And then as Kristen mentioned, there will be a companion guide that we'll be rolling out to you hopefully within about the next week that will have some additional thought questions. And again, the companion guide builds off our analysis of your implementation plans, and it has been guided by the four elements of the framework. So use it to further think about your goals and your strategies, and we'll be mentioning that both in our November web meeting as well as on some upcoming FPO calls that Ahmad mentioned. So as far as additional next steps, like we talked about, the BSR website is always getting new things posted on it in the different tabs. We are working with our colleagues to add a specific EBE tab that will have the resources that we're developing through this initiative. And of course, the new BSR curriculum will be posted on the site. Like Gina said, we encourage all of you to explore the site, use the tools that are out there, especially as you're thinking about those of you who are considering training your BSRs and developing consistent curriculums, looking for best practices. There are a lot of tools out there, so we encourage you to visit the site, explore it, and see what you might have missed since you've been there last. November, SPR will be reconvening us again for another discussion. Like I mentioned, we'll hear a little bit more about the framework and in particular the deliver and measure elements. We'll be excited to hear how you guys have been progressing on the things that you mentioned at the end of the chat today, and they'll be talking a little bit more about preparing for the Institute and answering some logistical questions and things of that nature. So as far as from myself and Jonathan Payne, your other FPO, we will be reaching out to you to set up some meetings later in November. We're looking forward to having some more in-depth conversations with you guys about how you're progressing on your goals and strategies as we're moving towards the Institute, how you're utilizing the tools that we're rolling out to you, and then we hope to be able to share our subject matter experts that we're going to be having at our convening in December, and help discuss some ways that you guys can maximize your time with them, as well as maximize your peer-to-peer engagement, both before the Institute and then when we're all together. At that time, we also hope to be introducing you to your Institute facilitator so you can start getting an idea of who else might be there to help support your team at the Institute. And as we're always working to continue our collaboration with our regional colleagues, we also will be inviting your state FPOs to listen in. And then finally, just wanting to remind you all that we just passed September 30th, and so your first set of reports are coming due 45 days after the close of that quarter. So watch for November 15th. You'll have both a 9130 due on this project, that's your financial report, and then also a project narrative. So Jonathan and I will be in touch with you in the near future with a format for your project narrative, and you can expect it to align with some of the topics that we put in the implementation plan template. So it should look somewhat familiar, and that particular narrative will be emailed to your FPO on November 15th. So any other questions on any of those items? That is all the next steps that we wanted to bring up today. Okay. Well, it sounds like we're all good to go, so I just wanted to thank all of you out there who've joined us today for this great conversation. Thank you for bringing your thinking caps and providing such wonderful feedback to us, and also thank you to Ahmad and Kristen and Vince, our entire SPR team, for all of your help, and to Jonathan and Gina for your additional support here at the ETA office. We look forward to reconvening with everyone next month.
Thank you all. That concludes the web meeting. We will be sending out additional information. If you'd like to download the slides of today's meeting, you can do that using the download pod that's now visible on the top left-hand corner of your screen. So feel free to click on that and download it to your computer. We will see you next time. Thanks for your participation.